What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations.
Something's got to separate you from the rest. So you got to be willing to do whatever.
In my experience, black men have struggles like having community with each other.
But she represents the mammy stereotype.
Now that was epic. I needed that. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that movement for the last few years, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 500,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And just some things out of the way. If you are up to it, please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, like the Dr. Vibe show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack. If you want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm a part of, please feel free to reach out to me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And finally, we can't forget our good friend, Dr. Tachi, who runs a great platform called Indie Soup TV. It's a YouTube platform that has over 28,000 subscribers, and that's done in 2.5 years. So that makes that site one of the top 4% YouTube sites in the world on subscription base. Subscription base. Let me get that out. So that is a good thing. We're trying something new. Well, it's, I guess, new slot, but not new conversation piece. For the last little while, a good friend and mentor of mine, Wayne Harris, who's a financial educator, on the morning show we do on Monday and Friday mornings at 9 a.m., we do Financial First Fridays. And the last time we did it, Wayne said, hey, let's switch it up and let's see if we can do something in the evening. So we're doing Financial First Fridays, but we're doing it in the evening on the first Friday of the month. So he is here, Mr. Wayne Harris. How are you, sir?
Doing well, doctor. Doing well. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking. Happy Black History Month, African Liberation Month. Have you been partaking in any activities?
I was at an activity today, actually, with the Gala King, Ryan Knight.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I got your message. What was the event?
It was the Black Federation. They were doing an event up near the airport, which is close to me out this side. And they basically had all of us there. They had the land acknowledgement, and they had a bunch of kids there, students that they were trying to kind of give them examples of what the Federation was all about and what the kids could do to get themselves set up on their career and life trajectory. So it was pretty inspirational. Nice. Because of the snow in the morning, we had people coming in from as far as Woodstock, as far east as Whitby, people coming in from Barrie. So we had the snow. So it was a very delayed event because I got there on time because it's only 12 minutes from my house. But people took a long time to get there, so it started late. So I had to leave early. So a lot of the agenda I missed because I had hard stops at 11 o'clock. I thought brunch starting at 8:30, 11 o'clock would be enough, but I guess not.
Okay, well, no problem. Let's jump into it on Black History Month. You wanted to talk on this show today about Black families and money, how to build generational wealth. Why this topic? Why this month?
Well, it's Black History Month, and this is the 30th anniversary, I think, of Black History Month in the province of Ontario. There was a flag raising in Toronto. There'll be one in Brampton tomorrow, I believe, and I met a number of the key players. I know Rosemary Sadler, DeWitt, and a few other folks were part and parcel of getting that all together with the city of Toronto and in Canada. And Jean Augustine is basically the person who sponsored Black History Month across Canada. So shout out to Jean Augustine, whom I see at many of these community events. I think it's on point to talk about Black History Month. I know everyone is I'm getting all my inundation of Black history. I've seen a lot of cartoons and animation this year, which is very, very good to be able to get the information out to the younger people who love that sort of thing. But we mostly focus on the last, I guess, 100 years of Black history, right? And predominantly the civil rights movement from the United States. A lot of people don't think about Black history from a Canadian perspective, where the Underground Railroad would have ended up in Chatham, Ontario, down near Windsor, up in Elliott Lake and Owen Sound, Black settlements in Quebec, and especially Black settlements after the Civil War in the United States in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. And there's also stories of people in the Midwest, out in Alberta and also in BC, who have been here, Blacks who have been here for 200 years. And they're here and their families are still here. And there was land that was given to them and land that they bought and land that has been won and lost over the last number of years and generations. And I think those stories need to be told in Canada more often than not, because I think everybody knows who Malcolm X and Martin Luther King is, but not too many people know about Viola Desmond and Dudley Laws and other people in Canada through the years, like the NCC, the Negro Community Center in Montreal, which was a hub for all things Black back in the early century, when the Black porters were, the sleeping car porters were working on the trains and being abused physically and verbally, and they formed their first union in Canada. And the porter was a very, very high prestige job. I mean, it was basically working for tips, but it got you a chance to see the country, got you a chance to get out of the province, and we did it better than anybody in the country. And these folks are need to be celebrated, because they really paid the price to pave the way for what we're enjoying today. I was speaking to a couple of gentlemen, one from Uganda and one from Nigeria, and I said to them, I said, welcome to Canada. How long have you been here? And they go, oh, I've been here 1 year, 2 years. One guy was 5 years. I said, I love events like this because it gives folks like you an opportunity to understand the price that was paid in order for you to walk into this country and have the opportunities that you have today, right? And it's something that most people won't say, but it is under the breath of the people who fought and protested and went to court and went to jail to put people in position to have all that we have today in Toronto and in Canada in 2026. So I wanted to talk about how that all relates to having not just freedom of movement, be able to buy a house anywhere you want. They had Ku Klux Klan in Oakville. And it definitely had Klan in Georgetown and in London, Ontario, and in other spots in Canada that most people don't think about. And those stories aren't being told. And again, I'm not saying we want to focus only on the negative, but we want to focus on solutions to get our people. If you're in Toronto in 2026, okay, and you can read, write, and count, you have a high school diploma, okay, the only thing stopping you from being successful, whatever that means for you, might be you. Okay, and that's a powerful statement to make, because is there systematic racism in some of the school systems? Yes. Are some teachers biased? Yes. Are some police biased? Yes. But again, in the grand scheme of things, are you making decisions as a person on a day-to-day basis to put yourself in position to win? Okay, and that's taking personal responsibility for your decisions and your actions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of put a highlight on some of the decisions people are making from a monetary perspective, and see if some of these things that are holding us back can be adjusted in 2026. I mean, it's only February. We've got 10 and a half months left in the year. What can we do to make those adjustments? Does that make sense? Okay, so let's talk about it.
100%, 100%.
All right, the first thing people will say that is facing Black folks in Canada, and again, Black people are not monolithic, right? We're there's multiple classes of black folk. There's some people in Toronto and in Canada making over $1 million. There's some people making between $500,000 and $1 million. There are a lot of people making, less than 250,000, and there are many more making between $100,000 and $250,000. And there's also those who are making minimum wage or less. So not monolithically, but there's some things that we have done, either through some things through systematic racism, but other things by making choices where we have an income gap and labor discrimination. So the income gap. When I was working for other people in the infancy of my career, whatever salary they offered me, I took. Is that fair? I would not be negotiating salary when I was straight out of school because I was unsure of my value, and I looked at the company as doing me a favor by hiring me. And that was my attitude in the beginning of my career many, many moons ago. But I can tell you, Dr. Vibe, that once I got some skills, and once I knew I had those skills and the market was telling me I had those skills, I would negotiate my salary. So one of the things that I'm noticing is when I'm talking to people, especially people who are coming from the diaspora, they're not born in Canada or were not raised in Canada. So they didn't go to high school here. They came after the fact. They have that attitude of, thank you very much for the offer. I'm glad to get the Canadian experience. And they go out into the workforce, but they're maybe taking a 20, 25% hit on their pay because they don't feel they're in position to negotiate. Now, sometimes it's an employer's market. And when it's an employer's market, like right now, it's an employer's market. So there's not a whole lot of negotiation because the employers basically have so much inventory of people at the same level of skill or greater, they can probably get you at a discount. And most people who haven't done their financial planning well enough will say, listen, a bird in the hand is a bit better than two in the bush, so just take the job. But my friend, in the 90s, it was an employee market. There were so many companies looking for so many people. Toronto was hiring. The Toronto Star had pages, thick pages of jobs for people in the 90s when I came down here. It was incredible compared to Montreal, where I was born. There was nothing going on. I had two negatives in Montreal. I was black and I was English. What? I had to go down to 401. Now, I know some people who were in Montreal and understood the assignment. They put their children in French, full French school or French immersion. They're still in Montreal and they're doing well for themselves. Okay, but for whatever reason, I didn't get the French to be fully bilingual. I could hold my own. If you drop me with a parachute into a French-speaking part of Quebec, I'd be able to talk my way out of it and get back to Toronto. But I want people to understand that there is you have to watch the rhythm of the market. If it's a employee market like it was before Y2K, you can ask for more money. When it's a employer market like it is now, you may have to take what you get and grab enough skills so that you can move on to another company if your company doesn't adjust your pay upwards. Next thing we're looking at is job insecurity and higher unemployment. So there seems to be higher unemployment in the Black community. And again, this is a monolithic generalization to speak. There's a lot of people at the lower spectrum of skill. And what I mean by that is they're not engineers, they're not doctors, they're not accountants, they're not lawyers. They are not technically trained in IT or coding or whatever is required to demand higher salaries. So if they gravitate towards those lower skilled jobs, the pay is going to be lower. And there seems to be a larger representation of our people in that lower echelon. And again, you can blame it on coming into the country, and the cost of university in Ontario is no joke. If you weren't a PR, you're going to pay foreign student fees. Forget about it. I mean, just as a domestic student, it's expensive in Ontario. As a foreign student, it's incredibly expensive. So then you figure out that your credentials that came from your country, wherever you came from, are not honored in Canada. So you get here and you have You've been running whatever you were running in places all over the world, but you get to Canada and say, sorry, that information and those credentials are not valuable here. You need to requalify, recertify, do an equivalency, whatever you want to call it. But you've got a family to feed. You got to find some place to live, and then all of a sudden you sacrifice yourself on that generation for your children to hopefully do better. I see a lot of that in the Black community. Number 3, housing barriers and lower home ownership. Now, the housing barriers that were in the past with the redlining in the States, and if you live here, people harass you. If you live there, people don't harass you. There is no Black community in the GTA, which is shocking to me, to be honest. You can say the Greeks have the Danforth. You can say the Italians have Woodbridge, Little Italy. You can say Chinese have Spadina, Kensington area, as well as Agincourt, as well as Markham for the most part. You can say that the Jewish community lives in and around Bathurst, from the water all the way up to maybe Richmond Hill. You can say that the Punjabi and the Hindus have Malton, Brampton, and Northwest Mississauga. You can say that the Ukrainians have King West in Bloor West Village, and so on and so forth. And then we have these pockets of community. If you go to Don Mills and Eglinton and Don Mills just south of there, there's a heavy Sri Lankan, and in Scarborough now, Malvern especially, a heavy Sri Lankan population in the east end of the city. So they have their populations, and they stay together, and you see the restaurants and the grocery stores and all the things that come from that concentration of commonality. Our concentrations of commonality in the past have been at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder, in the high high density housing across the GTA. Last I was told, there was about 19 different high risk areas, and we know what these areas are. Were these tall buildings with lots and lots of families in a small space in a lower socioeconomic level, and that's where a lot of our people started. You're not supposed to finish there, but you can start there. And they were designed to give people, lower rents and so on. For me, those areas of the city are places where you start, you do 5 years, 10 years, you get your certifications, you get your skills, and then you get out and let somebody else come in and do that, and you move on and you move up. That's happening, but maybe not at the pace that it should be happening. Now with housing today at historic lows in terms of the loss of equity, there are 3 markets in real estate. There's a seller's market where the seller says, this is my price, take it or leave it. And most people will take it because they want the house. There's a buyer's market where the seller says, I want my price. The buyer says, no, I'm not giving you that price. I'll give you this, take it or leave it. And the seller will have to do it because they're running out of the ability to stay in the home. And then there's a balanced market where the buyer and seller can negotiate and say, okay, well, you can have your price if I can close in 30 days. If you give me another $10,000, you can have the washer, the dryer, the this, the that, the other thing, the shed in the back. I won't tear it down, whatever, right? And you start negotiating. A balanced market is a negotiation, buyer and seller, and the price is going to be pretty much around where both of them are going to be happy. Buyer's market, the buyer is going to win, is going to get a nice discount. Seller's market, seller's going to get top dollar. Every part of the city is going between those markets. And most parts, the majority are moving towards balance, towards buyer. So it's balanced to buyer the last year, whereas it was balanced to seller for like 20 years. Okay? And every pocket is different. Realtors will tell you location, location, location. I think it's a fantastic time for people to look at home ownership, because this is a discount that may not last. The Bank of Canada held the interest rates steady in January. Had that interest rate dropped another quarter point or half point, it could have created a frenzy of people going back into the market, buying too much house and being too risky. So by holding the rate where it is, they're basically saying, let the buyers and sellers duke it out. But the amount of houses on the market is down from last year and historically low over the last couple of years because of the economic pressure that we're feeling from the United States. The level of uncertainty in the market today is higher than it's been since Y2K, to be honest, or 2008, the financial crisis. This one, and COVID, this one hits differently because it's completely manufactured. There's nothing going on that should have us on this level of, such a tenuous nature of our economy. But Canada had, 150 plus years to diversify its supply chain, and it decided lazily to focus on its neighbor to the south and has over 80% of what we make going there. And when they close the door, the second place that you can go to has only 4% of your market, which is China. So 80% to the United States and 4% to China. My numbers might be a little off, but that's all your eggs in one basket. That's not a good thing, because when the basket drops like it's dropping now, bad things could happen. So let's look at number 4. Lack of intergenerational wealth. This is a challenge. People here, I'll speak for the West Indian community. My parents sent money back home. Canada was never home for my father. Canada's where he lived. Home is Barbados. He's sending money home. He is going home. Where are we going? Where are you going for vacation, Daddy? I'm going home. So he has a renter's mentality to Canada and an ownership mentality to Barbados, right? So when you look at when my parents came to Canada in 1963, a long time ago, they were at the bottom of the economic food chain, and they were making very little money and sending most of that money back home to their siblings and parents, right? Because they were basically considered to be sentinels. So rather than saving money to buy a house here to increase their economic wealth in Canada, they were siphoning money off, sending it back home, so their family could live. I understand it, I respect it, but it's one of the reasons why we don't have a whole lot of that generation owning homes until later in their lives. You say, why do you still have a mortgage in your 70s? Because you probably bought the house late because you were waiting for a certain circle of life to happen. Once your parents pass away, right, your brothers and sisters are old enough now. Now you can start weaning yourself off of that money that you're sending every month to support them, and you can start redirecting that towards down payment for your house. So there's a lot of that going on. So when I think about why home ownership wasn't much more prevalent in the Black community, a lot of that, and I see that now with the African community, when I do financial needs analysis for them, or new immigrants from the Caribbean, money is being fired back to where they came from at a serious clip. Does that make sense? All right.
100%.
Okay. Any questions out there?
Not yet, but I have one or two, but I'll let you continue your flow and then I'll come in with some questions.
Okay, so let's go to number 5. Higher debt loads. A lot of Black families have a higher debt load, and they have the wrong kind of debt. They have a lot of cash money loans, payday loans, don't pay a cent event loans. Bad credit leads to higher interest rates when they're borrowing. And the story of the cell phone company that you got your first credit card at whatever college or whatever university you went to during homecoming week, and all the banks were there to offer credit cards, say $500, pre-approved, let's go, and you get your first credit card as an adult, and you forget you have to make the payments. on time. You forget you have a high interest rate. Some of these cards were like HBC cards back in the day, and these are paying 27, 28%, but they were giving you the card so you could have something to look good at when you're going to the club that weekend. And then you decide, let's say you get the cell phone from a telephone company and you use the phone, something happens with the service over a couple of days or maybe even a couple of weeks, you're not getting the service you want. You decide you're going to show them and you're not going to pay the credit card bill. They go like this: let me destroy this young person's credit. And your credit goes from 900 down to 600 or 500 and change. Now you're 27, 28 years old. You figured it out. Now you have your university degrees and now you're going out ready to buy. You found your partner and you're ready to go buy your house and you check your credit and it's 500 and change because you had collections agencies that you ignored. They wrote off the debt and now all these flags are sitting on your credit and you have the down payment, but no one's going to touch you because your credit is your character and your character is weak because your credit is low. So bad debt and the wrong kind of debt, trying to get things too fast, too often, can be a problem. Maybe you don't need that pair of $200 Nikes to play grade 10 basketball for your high school, right? Maybe you don't need the full arm sleeve and the full leggings and all the stuff that all the pros wear that they get for free, by the way, for you to be able to play ball on the weekend in a men's league, right? People have to understand something called delayed gratification. And if they understand that, they will not buy something unless they have the cash to pay it off at the end of the month, which is ideal. Sometimes you can't do it, but you need to look at the type of debt you're putting yourself in and see whether that debt is making you money. I don't mind you buying a car, going into debt at a fair interest rate. If you're going to use that car to do Uber or do courier or do something to make money, so that debt is making you money, great. If you're going to buy a house, you can find a house that has 2 units and you get into debt with that big mortgage, but the basement is paying you $2,000 a month. That makes sense. But when I see people buying a $750,000 condo with $750 a month maintenance fees for 600 square feet, I don't know if that's a great investment. And we're seeing that the condo market, of all the markets, single family homes, townhouses, condos, multi-tenanted, condos are taking the biggest hit because those maintenance fees are forever. Principal, interest, taxes, maintenance fees before you even eat. Okay? And then depends on what's included in the maintenance fee. Okay? That's number 5. Number 6, education costs with lower financial payoff. So pursuing education, going into debt, but coming out with a degree that is not monetizable. So what do I mean by that? I mean that there's certain degrees, and again with AI, not even on the horizon, but AI here, you really have to be careful as to what you're taking in school. Because imagine taking a degree in AI, let's say. You walk into the classroom and they show you a book from 2022 or 2023. That's not reality. What some of these AIs can do today in 2026, they couldn't do 6 months ago. So listen to and taking a course in this 2024, no, it needs to be the most relevant information. So universities are under severe pressure to add value because people are going through 4 years of school coming out and they can't find real work in their field. So universities have to adjust. They haven't had to adjust for many, many years because of the number of foreign students that were propping up the classrooms for many, many years. But when the tap was turned off on foreign students, the universities had all these professors and all these resources, but there was no one coming in to help them with those things. The foreign student tap was turned off, and all of a sudden universities had to start cutting, and professors started getting laid off all over Ontario, especially these colleges that were making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, millions off of foreign students, and those foreign students are no longer here. Okay, a couple more, and then we can have a discussion. Number 7. All right, so just to recap, number 1 is income gaps and labor market discrimination. Still a problem, but less of a problem, more in your control. Higher unemployment and job instability. Again, the lower your skills, the higher this is going to happen to you. Housing barriers and lower home ownership. This was a generation before us. Housing barriers are not there to the same degree. 5% down, 30-year mortgages now. First-time homeowner savings account, 40,000. RSP, 60,000 you can put down on the house. Lots of things to help you get into home ownership, but because it was a generation that was dedicated to their homeland, that money was being siphoned out of the Canadian economy. Lack of intergenerational wealth. If you don't own homes and you don't have jobs that have pensions, and you don't have inheriting property or assets because you're afraid to invest up here in Canada because you're doing your sue your partner in your meeting, which I understand made sense when it was a less trustworthy banking environment, but today. You have Canadian Depository Insurance Corporation. Your money is insured up to 100 grand. So you're not going to lose your money if the bank has a problem. Higher debt loads and the wrong kind of debt. Education costs with lower financial payoff. And then there's this, geographic concentration in high cost cities. Listen, it doesn't get more expensive than Toronto and Vancouver. There's not a lot of us in Vancouver. I think simply because the Caribbean is on the east side of the country, and we want to stay in alignment with getting down to wherever we're from within 5 hours. You don't cross the country 5 hours and then go down another 5 hours. You want to be able to get there. So people concentrate where they speak the language of your mother tongue. Jamaicans speak English. Bajans speak English. Trini speak English, right? Vincy speak English. So being in English-speaking Canada makes sense. Well, where is the most diverse place on the planet? It is Toronto, right? We have over 100 languages within 25 kilometers of the CN Tower. If you're going to come anywhere in Canada and you're going to get yourself a meal from your homeland, chances are we have it in Toronto, which is why everybody wants to live here. And there's jobs here, and there's transportation here when it works if it doesn't snow. Okay? That's a Montreal jab, doctor. It's a Montreal
Yeah,
jab.
I know. Every time I'm in Montreal, I'm on the transit system, and people ask where I'm from. They say Toronto. I say Toronto. They laugh.
Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing.
True.
Pretty embarrassing. All
True,
right,
but they
so
opened
that
the LRT this weekend. We'll see if it works.
well, it starts tomorrow. It's for free. It snowed today. We'll see how it goes. So I can't even make it up. It's so funny. All right, so let's look at so geographic concentration in high expensive places. So you tell somebody they got to go to Barrie, or they got to go to North Bay, or they have to go to Sudbury, Thunder Bay. They don't want to do it. Maybe they might do Windsor, they might do London, they might do Bowmanville, but no one's going to Kingston, no one's going to Cornwall, even Ottawa. People don't want to do from Toronto, to be honest. They want to be in the mix, and the mix is the GTA, Montreal, Vancouver, and those are the most expensive places to live in the country. Number 8, financial exclusion and lower access to advice. So when you go to the bank tells you what the bank wants you to know. And the bank only tells you what they offer. If there's something that's available out there the bank doesn't offer, the bank won't tell you about it. It's not in their best interest to do so. So if you go to TD Bank, Dr. Vibe, will TD Bank tell you that RBC has a better deal?
Absolutely not.
Why, Dr. Vibe?
Because banking is a business. They want your business. They don't want to give up your business to their competitor.
Correct. So are they checking for you, Dr. Vibe, or checking for themselves?
They're checking for themselves. Bank is a business.
All day, all day. All right. So mentorship on finance is something I've been doing now for a little over almost 10 years coming up. And when I tell people, whether they're 15 years old or 51 years old, they are shocked at what's available to them that they didn't know. Just before this call, I was on the line with a lady, and she had will, living will, and power of attorney, which is fantastic. She has a daughter, she has a grandson. They don't have anything in place, right? So she has it in place, and people think that an estate plan is something for old people. An estate plan is for someone who has an estate, and everyone has an estate. An 18-year-old who has $100 in his bank account has an estate because a parent can't come and take that $100 out unless there's a will. Now, I'm not saying 18-year-olds should have wills, but I'm saying if you have an estate of note, and what is of note? More than 10 grand. You have an estate more than 10 grand? Rather than waiting for the system to finally get you the money over 1 or 2 years, put something in place. Okay? That's number 8. Number 9, family remittance and support obligations. We talked about that. This is money going home. Some cousin, some niece, some nephew wants to go to university, and the rich uncle in Canada, because we're all rich, right? We're in Canada, so we must be rich. We have to send that money back home. Otherwise, we get ostracized when we get off that plane when we do get home. So in order, some people did it out of obligation. Some people did it out of, if I don't do this, how do I even look my family in the eye when I go to vacation? I'm staying in their house, sleeping in their bed, eating food around the table with the people I ate food with before I came to Canada. How can I go and do that if I don't give them what they're asking for on a monthly basis? It put severe economic pressure on people up here who were at the bottom of the socioeconomic level, most of them who were doing that. I don't recall seeing a lot of professors and doctors doing that. I see a lot of security guards, a lot of orderlies in hospital, a lot of housekeepers, a lot of maintenance people, a lot of janitors. I saw a lot of those people sending money back home, right? And again, no shade to the elite. Maybe the elite were doing it at a different level, or maybe their families were elite back home and they didn't have to send them any money. Number 10, and finally, systematic racism and chronic financial stress. Health is wealth, and when you are under the duress and the gun of finances, you go to bed thinking about money, you wake up thinking about money. Towards the end of the month, you start getting sick and feeling your chest tighten because you know the bills are coming in and you don't make enough. And that's tough on men and women who have their children, watching TV and on their phones, seeing all these things that are available to them and they don't have any of it. I know my father felt that pressure, right? Especially at Christmas and at birthdays. And he was trying to serve two gods, two masters. He's trying to help his blood relatives in a foreign country, so the Canadian dollar would translate to more money for them down there. And he was also trying to service his wife and his kids in Canada. Something had to give, right? And we lost that battle, okay? As he lost that battle from his father before him, right? So history repeated itself. I can safely say that my cousins who live in Barbados, I have not sent a dime to Barbados. Why? Because my father sacrificed himself for them, and my mother sacrificed herself for her side of the family. You should be good now. You're grown, right? I'm almost 60. They're grown. They don't need my money, and they never asked for anything from me either. And when I do go to Barbados, I stay at a hotel, so I do not inconvenience anyone. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm not giving you anything, right? We're family. Love you. You love me. But we have to get out of the children of the barrel. All those barrels we used to send down twice a year. Fill it up with rice and 10-pound bags of Gouda's rice and 10-pound bags, 10-kilo bags of 5 Rose flour and bully beef cans and Camay soap and Irish Spring and feminine hygiene and everything, and pack that sucker. It was 1,000 pounds and go down the stairs in the apartment. These guys who lifted those things, God bless them, because these things were really heavy. and they put those things on the ship, and they wouldn't even lock them because they knew when they got to the port, the guy was going to open the top, take a couple of cans of bully beef himself, close it back up, and send it on his way. Right? It was just a tax you had to pay on both ends. Right? So those are the 10 reasons why intergenerational wealth has been slower for our culture over other cultures, mainly from a Afro-Caribbean perspective. Do those points make sense?
Make all sense to me. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick 30-second break so Wayne can inhale, exhale for a few moments. And when we come back, we'll have some comments from the audience and also any other questions. And I have some questions for Wayne. So hold back. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Let's watch Black Canada Talking live on Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern, where Dr. Vibe and Cesar Demamusa give their takes and POVs on news stories from a Black Canadian perspective.
Let's watch The Morning Vibe live on Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern, where Dr. Vibe and Ryan Knight discuss important subjects between themselves or have conversations with people who you need to know about.
Okay, we are back on Financial First Fridays with Mr. Wayne Harris. And before we go any further, if you want to get in touch with Wayne, I've put in the comment sections on most of the platforms you're watching this conversation live or on repeat, but there's his website, email, and Instagram. And let's go to some comments. So someone you may know, Heather Harris says, good evening to all. What a journey our parents made for us to be in this moment. Yeah, I agree 100%. And we should never forget that, not just Black History Month, but every day, every day. She also says, what real work will look like, no one really knows at this point. On top of that, the enrollment cliff is here. There are lots of seats, but not as many students anymore to fill those seats.
AI.
Yep, absolutely. The Wallamala says, condos feel like a bad deal just for the maintenance fees alone.
Yeah.
So true. So true. All right, some conversation pieces. And while you're watching live here, certainly you can ask Wayne, but I've got some conversation pieces for Wayne. The data says the Black households hold a fraction of the wealth of white households. We already covered the historical factors. Let me check to this one. The median wealth for Black households is well under that of white households. How does a family process that without feeling defeated?
Yeah, great question. You have to assume that there was a level playing field, and there was not. You have to assume that both white and Black families did not receive any inheritance. And that is not true. So they're starting a 100-meter race at meter 90, and you're starting at meter 0. And the gun is shot, and you both start running. And they finish. Like, oh, okay. And it's not my privilege. It's not my privilege. It's my planning of the generations before me to put me in that position to be at the 90-meter line in a 100-meter race. That's the reality. So the Black communities before our generation were really at a handicap because they came to Canada with nothing and sometimes less than nothing and had to build it in one generation while feeding both countries. I'm first generation Canadian. I don't have that burden or responsibility for Barbados. Therefore, I could actually build some wealth in this country because I was only focused on my family. Right? So when you get those stats, let's make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. Did they receive any inheritance? Do they have to send money back home? Do they have to satisfy two masters? It's an unfair comparison, apples to oranges, really. And if someone came from Barbados, and let's say they were a fully trained accountant in Barbados, and they came to Canada, their credentials will be tossed. They'll start all over again to do the Canadian CPA. So if I come from France, I come from Germany, I come from England, I come from Scotland, I come from Ireland, I walk into Canada, my papers are accepted. So you can see that there's not an equal playing field.
Okay.
So that would answer that question.
Next conversation piece. What money beliefs or myths do you see most often in Black families that quietly block wealth building?
Woo, great question. I would think that people believe they can only get money through their own effort. That money means I must get up and go out and do something to make money. And that is one way to make money. That's actively making money, but you can only become rich through active money because you cannot break the 24-hour barrier. 24-hour barrier says you as a human being can't work 25 hours in a 24-hour day. You can only work 24. And if you did it too often, you probably severely injure your health. In order to create wealth, you must make money in the 25th hour. So there's a McDonald's and it's open for 12 hours. Okay, that's one McDonald's. You open a second McDonald's, it's now open for 12 hours. Right? You now have 24 hours of activity in a 24-hour period. You can be rich. The magic happens with the third McDonald's because now that's open for 12 hours. Now you have 36 hours of income on a 24-hour day. The 24-hour barrier has been broken and now wealth is created. So McDonald's has 28,000 McDonald's. Some of them open 7 by 24. June Kroc, who I believe is still alive, Ray Kroc's wife, he died. I met him in '86. She's still a billionaire because she's making money in the 25th hour. If the Black community does not make money in the 25th hour, the Black community cannot create wealth. No community can create wealth. So what do you need to do? You need to have your money work for you when you're not working. While you're sleeping, you need to make money. Some people call it passive income, residual income, whatever. But it's income I don't have to get out of my bed to go make, which is why rental property has been so popular. Something tangible. You can see it. It has bricks, it has windows, it has floors, and you can put someone in there. And if you do it all right, and the tenant is someone of high integrity, you will get your rent every month, and you don't have to be physically in the country to receive your rent, and that building will take care of itself. So if you have a 3-unit building and they're paying you rent, you live in one, the other 2 pay the mortgage off, you now have passive income, and when the mortgage is paid off, it's an ATM machine. Okay. Many other cultures respected that, and they came from countries where they owned properties over there, so they already knew how it worked. But if we had a renter's mentality where we came from, and we were living in our grandmother's house or our grandfather's house, and we weren't paying any rent, we don't understand the upkeep, the maintenance of properties. I don't know if there's a word for that in the Caribbean. They say that there's not a word for that in Africa. So people build stuff as bright and shiny, but maintenance and maintaining it, there doesn't seem to be as much energy put towards that. So we need to make money without having to get out of bed. You could have your money compounding, and there are many financial vehicles to do so. So your money's making money for you while you're sleeping, and that's how you can break out of poverty.
Okay, good. There's so many. Okay, let's talk about this. Research shows a lot of Black wealth is tied up in home equity, but home ownership is still harder to access. How can families realistically move toward owning a home?
Yeah, home ownership is actually not as hard as it used to be. Back in the day, you had to have 25% down, minimum 20. Now you can put 5% down. So it's actually easier today. Today we have the first time, in Canada, for the Canadian viewers, we have the first time homeowner savings account invented by the Trudeau government in 2023. And you can put $8,000 into this vehicle. It will reduce your taxable income, and you can take the money out of it after 5 years, a maximum of $40,000, and put it as a down payment on the house. That didn't exist back in the day. The other vehicle is the RRSP, Registered Retirement Savings Plan, which again, if you put money into it, it will reduce your taxable income. You're getting a bigger tax break, but you can also take the money out of that up to $60,000. Now it's 25 for many years, 35 for a few years. Now it's $60,000. So now you can put $100,000 down with just those two vehicles alone. And if you have a partner who's done the same thing, then you have $200,000 to put down. And now you're in a buyer's market. That means all properties are discounted. And interest rates are about today 4%. Might be a good time to do it. But not only do it, rather than doing it by yourself, do it collectively with people you trust. Get a contract so you have your business partner agreement. And 3 or 4 of you with $100,000 go and buy something. And now decide what you want to do. The other thing is you do not have to buy the house where you live. You can buy the house in Nova Scotia. You can buy the house in New Brunswick. You can buy the house in Manitoba. You can buy a house anywhere other than where you live. We live in the second most expensive place in Canada, Greater Toronto area. Do not buy maybe in the Greater Toronto area. Buy a little further out that has an anchor tenant. Maybe there's a government office out there. Maybe there's a university out there or a college that will guarantee that you have a pool of renters. You do not have to buy where you live. You can buy real estate in the United States. You can buy real estate in the Caribbean. You don't have to buy real estate in the GTA. Okay? There's different qualification mechanisms in place for that, but you don't have to buy where you live.
I'll have you tackle this one. Many of us grew up never hearing the words like estate plan or trust. For a Black family, what does a basic legacy plan look like?
Basic legacy plan consists of 4 things. 1, it's one of the only areas left that the government of Canada and the government of the United States does not tax when it's triggered, and that's life insurance. The government, for hundreds of years, has not taxed the proceeds from a life insurance policy. It is one of the ultimate ways, one of the lowest cost ways, depending on how it's structured, to get access to generational wealth without having to pay any tax. 2, you must have a will. Must. People need to know where your assets are and what you want to be done with those assets. The government wants to know because they just want their taxes. And your job is to starve that estate. And what I mean by that is take everything you could possibly take out of that estate that could be taxable and move it into non-taxable investments. It's pretty simple to do. Holler at your boy. I'll show you. But get everything out of the estate. Now, some people will say, that's great, but don't stop there. You need a power of attorney for property. Power of attorney for property is while you're alive, but you can't advocate for yourself. Someone that you trust will advocate for you. You can put restrictions on the power of attorney and say, don't sell the house. Okay? Make sure that you don't do A or don't do B. Or you can leave it unrestricted because you and the person understand each other and you have ultimate trust in this person. They can destroy you if you choose the wrong person, so choose wisely. 3rd is a power of attorney for health. If you're in a coma or you can't represent yourself, you can't talk, and you can't advocate for yourself, you need someone to advocate for you. You're going to hear these 3 letters, DNR. And when you hear those 3 letters, you need to be able to handle those 3 letters. DNR stands for do not resuscitate. Very tough to hear, but you have to be powerful enough and resilient enough to be able to hear those letters and follow the instructions of the person who gave them to you. So to recap, you need to have life insurance, enough to pay off all your debt, enough to give your people that you're responsible for, maybe they're minors or not, enough income to survive the period of time that you would have been responsible for them. So most people will say that's 15, 18, 21, depending on how much you want to leave. You want to pay off any and all debt. You want to pay off the mortgage, and you want to leave some money for an education fund for your kids if you have children. DIME, all debt, income replacement, mortgage, education fund. Whatever that number adds up to, that's how much insurance you need. And you go and get it. You put together a will, living will, and power of attorney. I have 2 facilities that will do that for you for free, depending on the solution you acquire from me, and you can do it yourself. It's follow the bouncing ball. Are you married or are you single? Do you have kids? No kids? Are all the kids yours or stepkids? It goes through everything. And you just pick and choose, boom, 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 boom. And at the end, it generates a document. Go get it notarized, and you're light years ahead of the pain you would normally cause if someone didn't have those things in place.
Okay.
Okay.
Heather Harris says, and it makes no sense because many of the countries in the Caribbean are members of the Commonwealth, but that wealth is not common for those from the Caribbean.
And the Commonwealth is just a name. Like the Federal Reserve is not a government entity. The Commonwealth is not for the commoners. The Commonwealth comes from the commoners.
She also asked, what can most of us do differently right now to make a positive shift for ourselves and future generations?
Good question. You need to know where you are. It's very hard to go somewhere if you don't know where you are. So some of you have a map of Jamaica, and you've come to Toronto, and you're trying to find Kingston, right? The map is legitimate. The territory does not fit the map. So people have a mindset of the Caribbean, a mindset of Africa. They come to Toronto and they bring that mindset here. You need to have a Toronto mindset or Calgary mindset or whatever. What do I mean by that? You need to know all the vehicles available to you to maximize your wealth and minimize your exposure to inflation and taxes. That's the secret. Maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and what inflation will cause to reduce your wealth. That's it. So we do a financial needs analysis, and we look at your cash flow. What's coming in, what's going out? How much tax are you paying? Are you paying too much? We'll talk about that. 2, what's your debt look like? What kind of debt is it? How much is it? What's the interest rate? How much are you paying on it? Minimum payments? You know, you can look at your statement to see that it could take you over 100 years at minimum payment to pay off your debt. It has it on the statement. Take a look. Do you have an emergency fund? Are you going straight into credit card debt or line of credit debt or home equity line of credit debt? If something happens, your transmission blows, your roof leaks, are you going straight into debt, or do you have an emergency fund of 6 months minimum since COVID, 6 months minimum that you can go and tap into so you can run your life while you wait for this thing to resolve itself? Hey, let's take a look at your protection. Do you have DIME in place? All your debts covered, income replacement for minors, or for maybe taking care of your parents, seniors. You have to have income for that. Pay off your mortgage and have an education fund. Do you have enough insurance? Good. Then, what are your assets? Do you have the TFSA? Do you have the RSP in the States? Do you have the Roth IRA? Do you have the 401k? Do you have something else? What do you have? And how is it doing? This is the second question. How is it doing? You may have it. I know people have TFSAs. They're making 1%. Why are you making 1% when the inflation is 3%? You're losing 2%, and you're paying. There's no tax on the TFSA. But inflation is 3%. If you want to make nothing, at least make 3. And then what are you doing to preserve the wealth? So do you have the will, living will, and power of attorney in place? And are we getting as much out of the estate as possible? So whenever that day of transition comes, maybe it's just a house. Because people talk to me about trusts. Well, depending, I'm not a lawyer, so I really can't speak to it, but I'll tell you this, trusts in Canada do not work like they work in the States. The Americans really have an advantage because a trust in Canada has to be disposed of in 21 years. Yeah. And then you have to go back in, but then there might be double land transfer tax and a bunch of different things based on the gains that were made by the trust over the last 21 years. It's a dangerous way to play ball. So you really need to structure it with an accountant and a lawyer that know what they're doing. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt. But the Americans really have an advantage here. And we hear about the Rockefellers and all these things that they're doing. I have a mentor. He has over 350 years locked into his trust. We can't do that here. 350 years.
Wow.
His trust will pay any of his lineage. It will pay for their first university degree. Think about that.
That's
This is
crazy.
how far he's thinking. Anybody in his lineage that needs to go to school, his trust will pay for their first degree. You change programs, it's on you. Right? You want to get a master's, it's on you. But the first degree, he's paying for. 350-year lockdown. Next question.
That's a great testimonial. Heather asks, sometimes we're afraid to look at our current situation. What are the consequences of fear and inaction?
Yeah, this is about the ostrich sticking his head in the sand. The lion's still going to bite your butt, right? So you may as well start running. I think that there's a lot of shame built into our community for our ignorance. And if you let people know that you're ignorant, people will weaponize it against you. I don't care where you're sitting. You could be sitting at work, you could be sitting at home, you could be sitting in church. The response is always the same, right? It can be very, very dangerous for people's self-esteem by admitting that they're up a creek with their numbers. But here's what I know: the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. My job is to make it safe for people to tell me what's really going on, and I know enough now. And I kind of knew enough back when I started that when someone's telling me a fib and the math isn't mathing, I just dig a little deeper, and then finally they'll come clean and they'll tell me, this is what's going on, this is where I'm at, can you help me? And 9 out of 10 times I can, because we even have the ability to do credit repair and debt management. And it's not just a consolidation loan. There are many other things you can do to take the pressure off so you can reset and move forward. But not doing anything is not a good plan, because I remember if you told me 40 years ago I'd be bucking up on 60, I'd laugh at you. Here I am bucking up on 60, and I'm like, whew, what a ride so far. And I'm, my goal is to go as far as I can. But what I know now, if I could get that into the heads of the 18-year-old and 19-year-old, 21-year-old who just got their first job, by the time they're our age, Dr. Vibe, they're multi-millionaires, and they are paying the minimum amount of tax on that money when they withdraw it to live their lifestyle.
Okay, some quick rapid fire before we close out. What is one money decision you wish more Black families would stop making immediately?
Consumerism, and did I mention consumerism?
Okay. All right. What is one small habit, if practiced consistently, that you believe could transform Black family wealth over a decade?
It'll be less than that. Pay yourself first. Right? Pay yourself first. Make sure that before you pay any bill, the first bill is to your savings account, whatever that savings account is, and it should not be in a bank.
Okay.
Banks are for checking accounts and savings accounts. Everything else should not be in the bank. Just a mortgage.
Okay. Heather Harris slides one in. What are the steps to get our children to take so they're not recreating the wheel?
Yeah, you need to have the conversation. So my 4 points on what we need to do, I have a framework that I'm working on. And the first thing is stabilize and defend. Build your foundation. Predictable cash flow, risk management, elimination of high interest debt. Build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund reserve. Do not have any payday loans. Reduce or eliminate revolving credit card balances. Secure a term life insurance policy, which is the least cost insurance policy to get you in the game. Watch for disability insurance if you don't have insurance through work, and get a basic will, living will, and power of attorney. Okay. Number 2,
go ahead.
Optimize and accumulate growth. So focus on tax efficiency, asset accumulation, early compounding. Look at some of these things in priority. If an employer is offering you a pension or RSP match, do it. That's free money. get your tax-free savings account, get your registered education savings plan, get your RRSP, and then whatever's left over, put in non-registered funds, but not in a bank. Okay? You can use low-cost investments. You don't have to spend a lot on fees, and I can show you how to do that. Acquire and leverage. If you're going to get a house, try to find a house that's not more than 30% of your income. So that means people are buying houses for $1 million and you're making like $100,000 a year. That's 10x. No, maximum 3x, maybe 4. You make 100 grand, you can afford a $400,000 house. You have 2 people making 100 grand, you can afford an $800,000 house. But if you got a $400,000 house, one person could lose their job, you can keep the house. So do not buy too much house. Stage 3. And stage 4 is preserve and transfer the legacy. So this is updated will, living will, and power of attorney. Make sure your beneficiaries are who you want it to be, not who you used to be with, not who you used to be married to, who you're with that you want the money to go to. Make sure they get it. Trusts, again, for more complex situations, multiple properties, multiple families, stepchildren, this and that, half brothers, half siblings, all that. You want to put that in place. And then you want to have a conversation with your kids. There should be a family meeting once a month, once a quarter, once a year, where father, mother, and kids sit around and say, this is what we have, this is what we're doing, this is where it is, this is what you're getting, and this is why. But if we could just get Black people to do that, we would say, because people say, oh, no, you think I'm going to tell you what I have for you so you can kill me? And these are true comments.
It's true.
These are true comments.
It's true. It's true.
Right? But that generation is going to the next realm. We're now top of the food chain. So as we're top of the food chain, it's incumbent on us. I say, hey, the will is in this drawer, in this safe, and here's a combination. Here's what I want you to do: my Facebook account, my Google account, my IG account, my LinkedIn. Here are all the passwords for all that stuff. It's all sitting in here. All right? Tell them where everything is so people aren't scrambling. The physical things you want to give to people, if you want to give them while you're alive, do so. Do so. You have Granny's chain that you want to give to your daughter, give it to her while you're alive. Right? Don't wait till the end job. Say, listen, the car is going to go. If this car is still working when I'm gone, this car goes to Bobby. Everybody was in the room. They heard it's going to Bobby. No one should have a problem with it. And if you codify it in the will that the car is going to Bobby, no one can contest it. They can try, but everybody heard it and everybody saw it in writing. So I think that there's no shame in your game. And I think people have a lot of shame as is associated with this whole process of understanding finances. What do you know? What don't you know? And then what do you do? And what should you be doing? It's 2 different things. What do you know? What don't you know? And now you know, what are you doing? And what should you be doing? And once I go through that with them, they get it and they feel relieved. I see the sense of relief on their face, saying, you know what? I was behind the 8 ball and I would have been there if not for you. And I love that feeling. It is amazing to know that I'm doing the right things in the right way with the right tools for everyone that comes in my realm. Okay.
Okay. 2 more quick ones. I don't want to keep you too much longer. If every viewer tonight did one homework assignment you give them, what should it be?
A financial needs analysis with your boy, where we see where you're at. And if you decide you don't want to do business with me because you don't like my yellow glasses tonight, and who's that guy wearing yellow glasses? If you don't want to do business with me, you can take that financial needs analysis, give it to any financial advisor, and they will know where you're at. But you need to know where you are to figure out where you're going. Your financial compass needs to be calibrated or recalibrated. Some of you don't even know you have a compass. So let's have that conversation to see where you're at today, where you want to go, and how I can get you there, or somebody other than me if you don't want to work with me.
And then finally, 10 years from now, what would you love to see change in the story of Black families and money?
Whew, man, I would love to know that their financial house is in order. That Granny has a will, living will, and power of attorney. Grandpa has a will, living will, and power of attorney. That money's going to transfer tax-free to the parents. The parents have all that in place, and that money's going to transfer to the next generation. I'm looking for people to have their financial house in order. If they can have their house in order, less money goes to the tax man. Listen, everybody's out here tipping the tax man. Hey, tax man, you want a tip? You know what a tip is? Paying taxes at the end of the year. That's a tip. You give the tax man a tip. Some people have given the tax man so many tips, the tax man has 2 Lamborghinis. If you think about your lifetime, how much taxes you paid, you probably gave the tax man 2 Lamborghinis, right? And you can't even drive them. And he's not even thanking you for them. But every year he comes in for you to give him more gas and pay for his maintenance on Lamborghinis you keep buying him. Because you refuse to learn what you need to know to reduce. I want the tax man taking the Eglinton Crosstown. I don't want him in a Lamborghini. I want the tax man to be walking. Okay?
Good analogy.
I might offer him a bottle of water, but I want you to, 10 years from now, you should be so familiar with what's available to you and all the levers you can pull to reduce your taxable footprint upon your transition and to transfer the maximum amount of money to people you want the money to go to with nobody having an opinion of it other than you in your will. That's where I want to see the Black community. I want to see estate plans and tax mitigation strategies, tax evasion's illegal, Dr. Vibe, but tax avoidance is your God-given right. Avoid, avoid, avoid.
All right. Well, we went a little bit past the top of the hour. Thank you for giving a little bit of extra time.
No worries.
No problem. If you want to get a hold of Wayne, it's there on the screen. It's also in the comment sections on most of the platforms you're watching this live on the replay. Just as we shut it down, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, hit the notification button. Also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack. If you want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms I'm on, holler at this boy, DR, period, VIBE at the DRVIBESHOW.com. And you want to get in touch with me also too, you can get a hold of me at taplink.cc/the DRVIBESHOW.com. And you can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Dr. Vibe Show website. So as always, this is how we close it down. I think there's, oh, you're getting a clap here. So informative. Thank you both, Wayne and Dr. Vibe from Heather Harris. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sis.
As always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Black assumptions: aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both, not just in Black History Month, by the way, and always make it better. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. Walk good, and we'll catch you soon.